Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Treadgold from the DCPS Family Engagement Team, and I'm so glad that you've joined us for Parent University tonight. It has been quite a crazy week, so we're especially grateful that you've taken the time to log on and learn about the Parent Portal. I'm going to start us off and share a few housekeeping items, and then I am going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Pat Reilly, who's going to share a lot of information about the Parent Portal and do a demo and walk you through some of the key features and some questions that you might have. Just a quick note, so Parent Portal will be rolling out to families of students in grades K through 5 for the very first time next week. And the elementary school features look slightly different than what's available in middle school and high school for this first launch. So Pat will share at the beginning of the session, she'll share the features that are applicable to all students, so K through 12, and then she'll move on to features that are specifically applicable to middle and high school families. So that'll just give you a little bit of information about how the session will go. We have a schedule of great Parent University sessions coming up over the next few weeks. Next week, we have a Parent's Guide to Section 504, Supports for Students with Disabilities. On the 18th, we have a really exciting session for families of students from birth to age 2. So probably not our DCPS parents yet, but some really great information there about social emotional learning for our little ones. And then on November 19th, we have a session in Spanish on metas de desarrollo para niños de 3 y 5 años. So that's benchmarks, developmental milestones for students who are aged 3 to 5. You can sign up for all of these sessions at bit.ly/DCPS-PARENT-URSVP. And that link is just added to the chat for you guys. So we are doing this on Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams has captions available, and those captions can be translated into a number of languages. So if you need subtitles or captions, you can go ahead and click the gear icon on your screen and select the language that you'd like captions in. For those families who need interpretation in Spanish, there's a link in the chat which we have live Spanish interpretation going on for this session. We will be taking your questions tonight, and it's great. I see a number of you have started to already pop questions into the Q&A box. So please do. We're going to pause a couple times throughout the session to ask questions live with Pat. And then my colleagues will also be responding to as many questions as they can in the chat box. We're going to try and keep as many questions as we can focused on the Parent Portal. And so if you ask a question maybe related to something else, reopening plans, for example, we'll do our best to respond to that, but we may not publish it because we want to keep the questions as focused on the topic at hand as we can. And also make sure you can thumbs up. Other people ask questions that you're interested, you can thumb those up, and we will make sure that we try and answer them. It's really important that Parent University is a safe space for all of our families. So we do have a couple of community agreements that we ask our participants to keep to. The first is assuming the best intentions. So we assume that all families care about their child, want them to be successful, and all families can support learning. And so we ask you to also have those same beliefs. Go hard on ideas and not on people. So we want folks to be honest, to push us, but also remember that everyone here, including the presenters, are real people, and so to be kind. And then finally, accept non-closure. So like I said, we may not be able to answer every single question that comes up tonight, but we'll do our very best, and we're happy to have you follow up with us after. We'll share our email address so you can reach out if you'd like to talk further. Without further ado, I am going to hand it over to my colleague, Pat Reilly, who is going to introduce herself, and then she's going to get into the meat of this presentation, why you came. So I'll turn it over to Pat.
Thank you, Natalie. Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us. I hope there are some old friends out there as well as new ones as I make my way in the virtual world to meet my parents and families. I'm Pat Reilly. I'm the SME subject matter expert in training for the ODDS department in Aspen. As you see by that picture, that's the way I look most of the time now. I like to get out and get my walking done and get some fresh air at the earliest possible moment of the day. So I'm so glad you're here. I also wanted to let you know that I not only have experience as a presenter in Aspen, but I also used it with another school district for 15 years. And I not only used it as a teacher, but I used it as a parent. So I understand where you're coming from, and I look forward to helping you understand how it will help you engage with your students and their teachers, and how it will keep you informed and part of the process that we feel as a community will benefit your child. Natalie, next slide, please. So as I indicated, Aspen is part of the Office and Data Systems and Strategies. So what I mean by that is that while I'm here to talk with you about Aspen today, my department also has several areas that it touches upon in the educational aspect in technology with your child and our families. Our department briefly are the ones who help the devices be distributed to your schools and families. We look at data that looks at everything from attendance to standardized testing and how we can focus on that information that we have. And of course, not only the use of Aspen, but we also configure it so that it meets the need of our policy and the DCMR of the District of Columbia. If you have any questions about our department, and I understand that we are being recorded today, you can reach out to Chartnell Sutton, and she will direct you to the people that you may have questions for. Next slide, please. So here's our agenda today. What I want to do is introduce you to this great tool that we have, Aspen. We are going to talk about, in my overview, what is a parent portal, what's in the parent portal, talk about our features, how do we get access, and how do we log in. What are the language features available, attendance, and a few best practices I'd like to share with you. As Natalie indicated, we'll look at some common features that will be used from K to 12 to include attendance, email, and now report cards for all grade levels. We'll also look at middle and high school, community service widget that we added last year, attendance, and grades. Thank you, Natalie. Next slide, please. So an overview. What is the Family Portal? Family Portal is where you can engage with the information about your child's educational, social, and emotional process. It is an SIS, a student information system. It is a secure system where we keep records of our DCPS students. So I always talk to my registrars and try to correlate it to the days when we used to have files and filing cabinets. That is not the process anymore. We use Aspen, this student information system, to hold those files and folders. So a lot of you are familiar because you already filled out enrollment or pre-enrollment forms, and this is where that information is uploaded that the families have given to us, that wealth of information we have to work with our families and our students. This is also, as a parent, where you can access in real time academics and attendance information and access report cards. I'm so excited because beginning this term, your elementary students as well will be included. Other documents that are held in Aspen would include such things as assessments. So those are the standardized test pieces, and that information is uploaded there in Aspen as well. So first we're going to talk about the general features, access and login. To get access for your parent portal, that information lies with the registrar. She will enter your email. She will provide you access to the portal to give you that permission. That is where the process starts. So please keep that in mind after we launch next week, that if you find you're not getting information, your registrar is your first person of contact. You want an email confirmation sent to you, provided with instructions, and there are also other documentations and videos that we've been working hard on to help ease this transition for you. Language feature. Aspen now, at this time, we have 2 languages that you can choose from. We have English and we have Spanish, and I'll be demoing that shortly. Some of the best practices that I want to talk about too is that I want you to explore the parent portal slowly. Please don't be discouraged. There's no editing that you can do. You will not have to worry about touching any type of hyperlinks or what access you have in the space. So Natalie, will you move on to the next slide, please? So, as you can see, this is what the login will look like for you. I wanted to show you that because we always demo in a test site so that we are using scrambled data and we follow HIPAA and FERPA to keep children's information secure. Your login ID will be your email. So I just wanted to demonstrate that, have that illustrated for you here because it does not look like that in the training site. So Natalie, I think I will begin to share my screen now if you don't mind.
It's all you, Pat.
Thank you. Okay, so here we are. This is our training site and it is our login information. And I'm going in, but you will have this type of window that you will be using. You will be entering your email address and your password. So I'm going to log on. And this is our home page. It's called Pages in Aspen. And this is where your access will begin. So some of the things I wanted to talk to you about were, as we look at this, the language feature. So as you can see, we're going to scroll down. There's lots of things up here right now, but I'm going to scroll down right now. And I'm going to select Choose My Language. Once I do that, it brings up a preference window. I'm going to cancel out of that for a second and show you where else it can be accessed. Underneath your name, and this is my parent's name, I can open it up and go to preferences as well. And this allows me to see that I have 2 choices. So if I want to work in Spanish, I would select that there. The same view as we saw before under Choose My Language, and I'm going to say OK. Now I can access Aspen in Spanish if that is the need that I have. For my Spanish-speaking families, just so that you are aware, not everything is translated, but most of it is. Report cards, that name stays the same. And you'll notice that as we go on. And our community service widget that we'll talk about with our middle school and high school portion remains the same. So I'm going to come back to English. And actually, I'll do that right from the pages where I was before. So I'm going to come here and go to choose my language. And this time I'm going to go back to English. So let's talk a little bit about the, well, actually, Natalie, would you transition me back, please, to the PowerPoint? I would appreciate that. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't stop sharing. Okay, so before we get going, I just want to talk to you about the features we're going to look at next, and I wanted to make sure that I highlighted them for you as K through 12 family features. So you are aware, we are only using a K through 12, so pre-K information will not be accessed at this time. Some of the common features that you can access are attendance, email. So by email, what we mean is that you can email to the teachers, but we do not use Aspen as a receptacle for receiving email, and you can access report cards. So Natalie, I'm going to take over the screen now. And here we go. Okay, so we're back at the training site, and we are going to look at the attendance piece. So first and foremost, where I want to begin is with the family tab. The family, we call these top tabs. The family top tab will list all our students, whether we have 1, whether we have 5, whether we have 3, etc. I can tell which one by not only the name, but it also lists the school next to them, provides us with DOB information, so I have access to that as well. This is also great because you can confirm yourself when you go into the family portal, whether information about the child by selecting the hyperlink. So I'm going to select Paula, she's my high school student, and I can come and look and ensure that information has been entered correctly. So I can double check on email addresses. Don't worry, Follett, who creates Aspen, is located in Massachusetts, so that's why we get that in our address piece. And I can confirm whether items that I selected in my enrollment or pre-enrollment forms have been entered correctly. And again, if I find that there's something that needs to be changed, for example, if I come to contacts and I notice that the telephone number isn't correct, then your point of contact for all of that is your registrar. So let's get back to where we were talking about. Now that I know where my students are located, I'm going to come to my student. I'm going to select this time Tiffany. She's my middle school child in this scenario. And I'm going to show you how you can access attendance. Attendance can be accessed from the family top tab, and then I can come to the side tab. And I'm going to select that. And I know that I'm with the right child's information by looking at the blue area at the top. What I have listed are attendance dates, and I realize we're not in 2020-21. So I'm going to take these and I'm just going to omit those right now, but I can see the attendance information for the child. I can see the code that was used, tardy, absence excused, tardy, absent, the reason if it's entered, and for what school it's associated with. I can also, the other piece I wanted to show, let's go back to our students, And again, I can do the same thing for my elementary child. This time, instead of selecting from the box, I'm just going to open up with the hyperlink. Brings me to the same space I was before. I'm going to go down to the daily attendance tab, and here I can see attendance as well. Coming back up to students, I want to show you how we can email our teachers of our children. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the academics top tab. And here I have another area where I can select which child I want to look at. So I'm going to come down to Alejandro. Screen changes. I'm looking at Alejandro's academics. Okay, it gives me an idea of what his schedule is and who his teachers are. I'm going to come up to Options, Send Email. When I choose to do it that way, I am getting all of Alejandro's teachers. So perhaps I just want that message to go to, let's say, his English teacher. I can select the X and that will remove them. Okay. If I want to, though, and I'm going to come out of that, I can also just select the teacher here or the subject, and I can go to Options, Send Email. Oh, I am so sorry. I'm going to go Options, Show Selected. Apologies, that helps me isolate the record. And then I'm going to go to Options, Send Email. Because that's the only teacher up there, that's where that email is going to go. So the other piece in this you might be wondering about is alternate email addresses. So what this means is when this email goes out to the instructor and the instructor will receive it in her Outlook box, I can also include my alternate email address if I want to, and if I've given one. I may not have, and that is fine as well. And again, I'm going to put what the topic is, create my email, and then make sure that I send it. I can add a file if I want, if I need to add an excuse, or if I need to have some documentation included, especially now that we're in this virtual world. This is a wonderful feature to have that you can use. And then I would send it. You can blind copy if you want. That's available as well. Okay, let me cancel out of that. And so the third common feature that we want to talk about between the K through 3, we're going to go back to our Pages top tab, and we want to talk about the report card. So as we launch this, you will find that when the report cards are uploaded, they will They will be accessed from the published reports on Pages. This makes it easy for you to access. They are a downloadable document. So here it is. I have the one for my elementary student, Jalen. And so elementary families out there, all I'm going to do is select the report. It's a PDF file. And I'm going to have it come down, and then all I need to do is open it. Now that piece of downloading it might look a little different depending on what kind of browser you're using or what device you're using. So if you don't see it on your home screen, just go to your download files and you'll be able to access it from there. And then you'll see a full copy of your child's report card. So I'm going to close that and just show you that same thing with secondary. And again, if I don't see it in my window, go to where your download files are located, how you organize them. I'm going to open that. And then just a preview of our middle school and high school report cards. This is what they would look like as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And Natalie will bring up our PowerPoint. So are there any questions right now about the K through 12 common features that I can answer for you?
Thanks, Pat. That was, I think, very helpful. We did have a few questions come through the chat, some which we responded to, and there are a couple that I'll need your help with. So one question I'd love your help with is if we had a family ask if their child's IEP or individualized education program information is kept in Aspen.
No, it is not. That's a great question too. We do indicate in Aspen that whether the child has an IEP or has a 504, that helps us indicate and ping out to what services and agencies need to be communicated about the need. But no, that's part of the SEDS program. And so no, we don't keep that information in here.
Thanks, Pat. And just for folks, Pat mentioned 504, which is a law that supports students who need accommodations, and we'll be having a parent university about 504 supports next week. So if you want to learn more about that, you're welcome to join us. We have a question here. Is emailing through the Aspen portal the preferred method of communication with teachers versus emailing them directly? Do we get notifications when we get replies, or do we need to log in and check to see the emails?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that. Because we only generate emails out, teachers can do the same thing too. They can send from Aspen, but because we don't receive email, we don't get notifications at Aspen either as a parent or as a teacher, so you know. So that would end up in their Outlook inbox. And then when they respond to you, it would go to the email that's associated with that primary email that we looked at as a selection choice, or the alternate email. Now, as for that question of preferred method, that is on either a school level or teacher level basis. So I would reach out to the teacher and the school about that.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you say, Pat, is that so the email features in Aspen, that goes through your regular email address and to the teacher's Outlook email. So it's not housed in Aspen. It just makes it slightly easier. If you want to email all of your child's teachers at once, you can just click a button and an email will come up. But it's not any different than when the teacher receives it. It's no different from you just sending an email from your Gmail or from your Outlook address. Exactly.
And the teacher would have no indication of where it came from either, whether it was out of, I don't believe, I can say with 90% certitude that they would know whether it came directly from your Gmail or whether it came through Aspen, as far as I know.
Okay, just a couple more questions. One person wants to know, is Aspen compatible with a MacBook?
Yes, I'm using one now. So yes, it's great. And it's compatible with your phones. It's compatible with pads. It's what we call a responsive device. While we don't have any apps for it, it is responsive. So it will ensure that you see the information on your screen, whether it's a small phone screen, an iPad screen, or a large iMac for that example.
We did have a couple questions about how the mobile site is different than the desktop site, which is what you've been demoing.
Yeah, the mobile site is different in that it doesn't provide you with as much information. It has some attendance pieces, but you don't get to look at all of the, I apologize, we don't have the mobile access in the training site right now, but you don't get to see as much in areas such as assessments would be an example, membership information, which show, I'm going to let me share my screen while I answer that question. I think that would be a good way to do it. So here I am. I'll wait for it to come up.
And while you're doing that, Pat, I'll just say that even though on the mobile site you don't have access to as much information, there is always the option if you use your phone. There's a button that says take me to the full site, and so that will take you to the desktop site on your mobile device.
Exactly. And I would say that the ease of use of that feature to be able to do that is if you're on one device and you just want to look at something quickly and you don't want, it's an attractive piece, and maybe that's all you want to hone in on that time. You don't have to commit to one or other piece of it. So that's a great feature of it. But as I was going to show you, so I come to the students from the family top tab, the types of things that it would not include is this assessment side tab, which in the live site would list the different types of standardized testing your child has had during their career with DCPS, and you wouldn't have access to that. You also wouldn't have access to the membership side tab, which also tracks your child's history with DCPS, when they've enrolled, when they've withdrawn, their movement to other schools, that type of information. And the documents piece might not be there as well, with some of the archived information and documents that we hold from the last quarter's report cards and other pieces that are included documents depending on the school level. But that was a great question. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
All right, let's you can go ahead and keep moving along here.
Okay. Great questions. Thank you all so much. So we're going to look at the middle school and high school features that are available in addition to what we saw for elementary folks. So last year we put in a community service widget, which I'm going to show you. So as you know, upon graduation, your child has to have, and that's grade 12 graduation. Upon graduation, they have to have 100 hours of community service, and we're trying to engage our families and students to assist us in uploading that information. You can look at your child's schedule, which is a feature, and their grades. Because middle school and high school has what we call a fluid grade book, you can see how they do on their individual assignments. So Natalie, I think I'll start to share now, please. Okay, wonderful. So here we are back at Pages, and as you know, we get to see a lot of things here, and we get to see what we call Community Service Hour widget. Now, first and foremost, I want to show you something. I'm going to come back up. Remember we talked about the preferences before when we talked about the languages? If for some reason, this is a troubleshooting and best practice hint that I want to share with you. If for some reason you don't see that widget down there, I'm going to come to the Home tab in Preferences. So what preferences means too, so you understand, these are the things in Aspen that you can kind of control. How do you want to look at? Some things we can't. Teachers, administrators like myself, we have this featured piece as well. What I want to do is I want to make sure that the task is selected, because this widget was created, and I'm going to take it off right now, was created in a taskbar as part of the home page when it was in development. So I don't see it now, so I'm going to come back up to Preferences here. And yeah, you probably could have done it from the Choose Language as well, because that's where that is on the front end of that. But I'm going to come to the Home tab. I'm going to select that now, and I'm going to say OK. So now I see the Community Service Hours widget. I'm just going to briefly talk about this for a minute. But this brings me to a point with middle school and high school families. Your child also is part of this Aspen piece, and theirs is called the student portal. And the student portal closely mirrors what you see, just so you're aware of that. And both of you have access to this piece. You can initiate, what that means is you can help add pieces and documentation of work that your child has done in community service. This then gets sent to the counselor so that she can look at it and tell you whether or not it needs to have more information. It's declined because it's not the proper type of piece that was needed or work that was needed to be done. And she can say it's been accepted. So I'm going to select Paula. And so the reason why is middle school students as well can begin their community service work at grade 8. So they can start to begin to add up their hours at that piece. So I've selected Paula. I'm going to go to next. And then there is a form that I'm going to fill out. And this form is going to ask me for community service type. And I'm not going to go too much into length of this. I'm not even going to fill it out, but I'm going to put the organization's name, the number, who is the contact, and if your child is performing community service hours, all of this information is on a form that is distributed by the counselor. But I just want to make you aware of it. So this information is the documentation that's filled, that is completed about the community service volunteer hours your child has done is uploaded here, and then it is reviewed and you get to see the piece here. So I'm going to open this one up just so that you can get an idea. And so you can chart the progress that's being made, and you get to see who the counselor is and what their comments are. And so as we move on in this virtual world and post, we can talk about this more when I come out to schools for middle schools and high school students. So that's a piece that we have. Doesn't appear in elementary because there's no need for it. Another thing that you have access to is your child's schedule, as I indicated. So to go to the schedule, I'm going to go to the Family Top tab. Perhaps you recalled seeing that earlier. And notice, Aspen likes to come back to where I was last time. That's what it defaults to, thinking maybe that I might need to do some more work with that. I'm going to go to the side tab, but notice I'm looking and I'm going, that's not the child that I want to be in. So I'm going to come back up because I may have several, as in this case. So I'm going to go to Paula. I'm going to open her up by the hyperlink so I can see the side tabs for my access for information for her. And I'm going to select the schedule side tab. Now I can see the courses that she is in. This view is what we call a list view. But my favorite thing to do is to come to the matrix view. Because the best thing about the matrix view is it gives me an idea of what day, because most middle school and high school students have an A day or they have a B day that they're in. And it lets me know by the red square which one that is. And then the red square around the period tells me which class the child is in at that time. Now notice another piece about this is it has term 1. So I can look at term 1, or I can look at today. So these are the classes where my child is today. So that's a great feature for you. But let's talk about the grades. Grades are accessed from the Academics Top tab. And again, because in Academics tab, we've got a wealth of information on your children, we can select which child we're going to look at. I'm going to look at Paula because I know I have some information on her. What I want to do is to go to the Details side tab. When in doubt, always select that. Now, I know you're saying I don't see anything. You will in a moment. I'm going to go to the Assignments side tab. I'm going to filter to All Records. If you don't see anything, go to the filter or the funnel and All Records. So now I have a couple of things I can do. From Details, I can look at each class individually. And what's awesome about this view, I love this with my daughter, because it gave me an idea, was there any correlation or connection between absences and how they were performing in the class? And this view shows me by term how they did. I can navigate between each class by going to the next record up on the top. And so now I'm in World History. I can go to Assignments side tab and I can see the assignments that Paula has had for each class. And again, I can navigate from one to the other. I can go back and forth, okay? And I can select my terms, okay? So let's go to the one that we just saw right here, okay? This one in English, I can see how Paula did. I can see what her score is. I can see when it was given. I can see what their grade is. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's not doing so well, is she? Now I can also open it up to get more information. So if I select the hyperlink, I can see statistics on the assignment, what the high, low, and medium for the class was, if the teacher has selected that. I can get a description of what the assignment was, and I can see if there were any resources provided. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm covering everything. And so again, too, and I can also come to the attendance feature. Attendance can also be accessed from the academic side tab, and they can be open as well. So if I open up this one, I can see absent, yes, tardy, no, no, yes. But let's go back to that information. I'm getting a reason here, and that says absent from class due to a school activity. So that was the selection that was made to indicate what type of absence it was. So I'm going to come back out to the pages, and just another reminder that this is where you will access your child's report cards as well. Now, one thing before I take some more additional questions I want to mention as far as best practices for the middle school and high school parents in using Aspen. I strongly recommend that you use your access in the parent portal to look at your child's information, attendance, report cards, academics, other information, because using your child's login access is not how we want to maintain a secure protocol. And if you log in as your child, you also won't see the report cards either, because your students do not have access to published reports. So that's my best practice hint on that, just to ensure that you keep in. I like to have my students stay in their own lane and have my families go to their site for their information. If I see I have a couple of more minutes, I want to share something else too that we have. We also have a calendar piece. And I just wanted to show you this because this is another space where you can see the assignments that were given per child. You can also go select through your different children for information. And you also have options. So you can add an appointment. So let's say you want to put in, oh, I want to remember that we have a dental appointment that day. So you can put that in there. Now, I will say this, I'm going to cancel out. The one thing that you cannot do is it does not show on each child's calendar. So you would have to create that appointment for each child separately. But as you see, I have the assignments here. If there was some kind of handout or a document that was attached to this, that would open up as well. So, Natalie, I'm going to stop sharing, and I would love to take additional questions that our families have.
Sure. I might actually have you keep your screen up because there was a couple things that I thought it might be cool to show our families.
You got it.
One, did you go through the how families can set up alerts for low grades or for?
Thank you very much on that one. Notifications. That's the one you always catch me on each time. This is a great feature, families. It's from the Family Top tab, Notifications. This allows you to notify, get a notification from Aspen and set the grade threshold that you want that notification. I loved this when my daughter was in high school. She wasn't too happy about it, but I loved it. I got to get a notification if I wanted to know it was if she went below an 80, I can put that in here and I can set it for grades and I can select the email that I want this to come to. And that's all I need to do once I select the, once I select the email that I want that to be addressed to. I can also move from one record to the next. Now, notifications will not work with our elementary kiddos. So if you set it and you don't see anything, that's why. But I can go through and I can do it for my middle school students as well. What else would you like me to show, Natalie?
The other thing, I was wondering if in the training site you are able to show how families can access their student's guide to graduation, career, and college on the Documents side tab or in the published reports.
Let me see if we have, I can show where it is. So we're back in the Family tab, and that's the side tabs that we have all sorts of information. I'm going to select Alejandro. For some reason, I thought maybe his had them. That's a good piece. No, we don't have one in here, but it would show up in this piece right here. Let me double check. Let me double check our other.
And just to so our families know what we're looking for here is that all of our high school students have an individualized guide to graduation, career, and college, which is a document that provides them with specific recommendations about college and career paths. And that document was just published for 12th graders this fall, and that would be available in Aspen. And for other grades, they would be able to access the version from last spring in their Documents side tab.
Yes, it would be located here. We just recently rolled over our training site, so I guess it didn't come through. I thought we had it in Paula's or Alejandro's, but we don't. But families, you would go to the Families Top tab, and just a reminder, select the student that you want. If you don't see them all, go to the filter and go to All Records, okay? And you would select the student, go to the Documents side tab, and that's where we would find that piece. And again, just like anything else, I would open that up and I would get a report that I can open, but in this case, we're not able to do that because we don't have any live data attached to the files in that space, but you would be able to access it from there.
Great. There's just one more thing that I want to make sure that we cover for our families who might be new to the parent portal, just so folks understand the way that the accounts are created. And I know you covered this a bit at the beginning, Pat, is by the school registrar granting parent portal access. and entering a valid email address in Aspen.
Exactly. So especially now, since we're launching the elementary school access to the parent portal, you will be receiving an email that will give you an idea of whether or not an account has been created for you on Tuesday of next week. If you have not heard from your schools about this, you may want to reach out to your registrar. But the typical process is that from your enrollment work, that when you fill out those DCPS easy forms that we call them, and that you return to your registrar, or you've done it virtually, in other words, you've done it through email and they've picked them up there, that included a space to have information about contacts. And in that, you were asked to provide an email. If you have not done that, or you recall, I don't think I chose to do that, then this is an opportunity for you now to reach out to your school and let them know that you want to. And so you want to give to them a valid email where you can be reached. And then they're going to ask you if you want to be granted parent portal access, and you want to respond yes. I'm assuming most all of you do in this space because you wouldn't be here otherwise. So you want to tell them yes. And then what happens is that they enter that information and your portal is updated, and you will get information about that to the email you were provided. And then you will be able, I'm going to log off, and it will give you the information that you need. They will give you a login ID, which will be your email that you provided, and they will give you a temporary password, and Aspen takes you through the steps. We also have documentation that I'm finishing up tonight that will give you detailed instructions about that, and we have Natalie will talk about where you can access those pieces, and your registrar and your schools will have them as well. And if you forget your password, or you can't locate your email, and you can't get in touch with your school, all you need to do is go to Aspen, and I'm just going to open up right here. Here's the aspen.dcps.dc.gov. You know your login ID is always going to be an email, and go to I forgot my password, and that will take you through a series of steps as well. That answer your question, Natalie?
Yes, thank you, Pat. So I'm going to go ahead and move us through to the last few slides here. Okay, I'm back. So I just want to thank you, Pat, so much for your time this evening and for going through all of those steps with us. I know that families appreciate it, and for those who joined us live, and for those who will be watching this later, because this session is recorded along with all of our other Parent University sessions. And so folks can watch those at bit.ly/GCPS ParentU-Rex. And that link is also in, will be posted in the chat as well. For additional resources and information about what's going on with DCPS right now, you can visit dcpsreopenstrong.com. Also, we really love feedback on these sessions. We're always trying to make Parent University better and more responsive to what your needs are. So you can fill out the exit ticket at bit.ly/ParentU-eval19, and one of my colleagues will also post that link in the chat. And finally, if you have additional questions, or if we didn't answer your question sufficiently, please email us parentu@k12.dc.gov, and we'll get back to you within a day or so. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.